Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in our chats with Emily as we are calling our readings through the poetry of Emily Dickinson. We are in the Johnson edition. We turn now to poem 394, "'Twas Love, Not Me." Now this is a fascinating poem. Some scholars have actually called this a very difficult poem, and I think when they call it difficult, what they mean is the language belies a certain kind of understanding between the two Emilys, if we can use it that way. We will have here another possible love poem to an unnamed individual, possibly an unnamed man, and in that regards we're going to have to speculate as we read the poem. Our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net down that left-hand side, chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful you've worked through our set of introductory comments. I'm really hopeful that you've already read the preceding 393 poems in the Johnson edition. We just finished with 393, did our best moment last. And if you have, then you know that you can place this poem in a universe of a number of other poems where she is dealing with this question of love and the ability to hold on to that love and who is responsible in the end for love, especially as it relates to her. Now, there is a very interesting conceit at play here. Emily is both lover as well as love as itself, and there's a tension that we're going to see here, and that will lead to the irony of the poem. We will see this. In some ways, we are back to poem 196, and you guys will remember that she names someone named Tim as an alter ego, and we'll be playing a similar game here. Now, some of this may be tongue-in-cheek, which is, again, so many of the poems that we look at Emily and we can treat them so seriously. Sometimes I think she's just having a bit of fun, too. She says it this way: "'Twas love, not me. Oh, punish, pray. The real one died for thee, just him, not me. Such guilt to love thee most. Doom it beyond the rest, forgive it last. 'Twas base as Jesus, most. Let justice not mistake, we two looked so alike, which was the guilty sake. 'Twas love's, now strike." Again, I think the fact that the poem ends with the word strike and with a quotation, with an exclamation point, makes this poem actually not so much a difficult poem to read as much as a fun poem to try to interpret. Notice she'll begin by saying, "I wasn't the one that loved you. It wasn't me, it was love." In other words, here I am, and there's this thing called love. You can't blame me. And in maybe idiomatic ways, I can't be held responsible for the things I do because it really in the end isn't me. It was really all about love. So she'll say it, punish, she says. In other words, don't blame me, blame love. Punish, and then she'll use the language of theology, pray. And then notice the capitalization of real. The real one died for thee, and then she's going to use Christ language and crucifix language here. It'll be Jesus in a little bit. The real one died for thee, just him, not me. In other words, this is really not about me. This is about love. In other words, however I felt towards you, whoever this you is, we don't know, is beyond my capacity to control. And then she'll use, of course, the word guilt, and then she'll come to guilty sake in a bit. Such guilt to love thee most. Notice exclamation point. To love thee most. Doom it beyond the rest. And again, this idea of the doom and the crucifixion that she'll play around with. Forgive it. So notice we go from prayer to forgiveness. Forgive it last. 'Twas base as Jesus most. And she's making obviously references to the very notion that the crucifixion required tremendous sacrifice, and in the end to argue that it was of little value would be to diminish that great sacrifice. And then she'll go from there to justice. So she's even playing the game of Plato's Republic, you'll remember. Let justice not mistake, we two looked so alike. Again, Emily and love. Which was the guilty sake? And who's responsible? No, it wasn't me. It was love. 'Twas love's. Now, strike. Now, the word strike is such a compelling word. And again, Emily loves to play these games where it's like, what does that even mean? Like strike as in to strike out, or as in to go out, as in to try to actually pursue the thing that you want, or to give up, as in strike. At 2B, I think the argument here is that Love is inevitable. It cannot be so easily dismissed. And of course, Emily would have standing behind her all kinds of exemplars and texts. Obviously, Virgil's Aeneid comes to mind, and the way in which Dido will fall for Aeneas, of course, Juno helps, doesn't she? We've given full lectures at learnstrong.net. In other words, it's something beyond me. And I think in some ways, Emily is going back to Plato's Symposium and the idea of that severed half of the soul, and the soul is always longing for its other half. And 2b, the power of comparison here, right? This is, I think, a powerful way to think about it. Comparison and compression. So notice she says a lot in the great scholar Miller's, in her A Poet's Grammar, her analysis of some of the poems of Emily Dickinson. She talks about this power of compression to be able to say, what is she really saying in this poem? Well, it is ironic. In other words, it wasn't me that fell in love. It wasn't me. I can't be held responsible. It was love. It was the power of love. At 3a, of course, I think Shakespeare's sonnets immediately come to mind. Sonnet 116, let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Love is not love which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with a remover to remove. And then the fact that justice gets mentioned here, we mentioned Plato and Republic, but I also want to mention, think about Milton. I have said to you guys that I think John Milton's Paradise Lost stands behind a whole lot of these poems. And I think Emily might be playing around with that game as well. That is to say, you can read Paradise Lost, and we've given full lectures on all those books at learnstrong.net, but you can read Paradise Lost as an attempt to understand love, especially the love between Adam and Eve, and who is to blame for the fact that striking did happen in the end. Finally, at 3b, what was a time in your life when you actually blamed love? You said, it's not my fault, it's inevitable, it's love. Thank you.